Hello everyone, this is Alec from AJ Farms, and I apologize for the wind. It literally just kicked up as I was coming outside to film, but hopefully you're able to hear me and it's not too bad. So today, we are here to start the long task of separating our tomatoes. If you remember in a previous video, we planted our tomatoes in these black trays right here. Well, most of them. We have our slicing tomatoes on the left, we have our mostly sauce and one variety of cherry tomato on the right, and then we do still have the cups with the other cherry tomatoes we planted, but they don't look as good. I do think it was a soil issue because a lot of the plants that I planted in that particular soil didn't do too well, but as soon as I transplanted them into something else, they did just fine. So right now we're going to separate the tomatoes. As you can see, they've gotten very big. And I planned on doing this earlier, but the weather was not cooperating. Usually it's warm enough now that I can start hardening things off. We got a frost last night, ironically, on our going into the day after our last frost date. So there's potentially one more night where it will dip into the 30s, potentially low to mid to low 30s. So what I will do is plant these somewhat closer to that date, and I will not put cages on them until after that, so that way I can put the frost cloth over them more easily, and I won't have to worry about losing them. Because it got down to 31 last night, and I think I like double folded a frost cloth over the tomatoes that were already outside in a different location, and they survived just fine. They look great. Oh, there's the wind. So let's see. Some things that I have are some containers that I bought previously. They're little 3-inch square containers. Oop. They're little 3-inch square containers. And I rinsed these out very well. I mean, they're still a little dusty on the inside, but that's fine. And I also have these round containers from previous plant purchases. And honestly, they work just fine. I do have some of the old trays because I bought enough plants that I could use them. So I'll be using a mixture of these, mostly these because I have 48 of them and I think I have about 60 some tomatoes. And not within arm's reach, but I also have some 1080 trays. Now they're basically these square trays right here, but just double them in length, and it's just to hold everything and make it easier to transfer everything around. And I also have, if I can get it over here, 30 quarts of Jiffy dirt. I believe I showed this in one of our first videos where we planted things, one of our first pepper videos. This was the dirt that I used the first year, soiled dirt, same thing. I honestly should have stuck with it. It's great. I just switched because I wanted to play around with mixing my own soils. But when I transferred my plants from the old soil into this, they immediately perked up. They did so much better. So I'm going to be transplanting them into this because I know it works, and I do want them to continue growing. So I'm going to get everything set up so that I can have both hands free and show you how I'm going to separate out some of these tomatoes, because it is a little bit trickier with these peat pellets. As you can see, some of the plants, some of the pods have 2 or some even 3 tomatoes in them. And one thing that you can do is take the plants and snip them at the roots, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to get set up and I'm going to show you how I'm going to separate these out. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our first cherry tomato and cherry tomato variety. And one supply that I did not mention that's also very important, I guess 2 supplies. Okay, 3 supplies. Duct tape, a Sharpie, and a hose, because I need to be able to label these. I do still want to know what variety is what, and they all just look like tomato plants, so I honestly wouldn't know if they were all put together. So I'm going to start with this variety right here. This is our large red cherry. And I'm going to start with the cups because honestly it's the easiest thing to start with. What I'll usually do is separate the 2 cups just to make things a little bit easier. Then I very carefully, I'm going to not do this over the tray. No, I'll do it over the tray. That way I can save some of the soil. Flip this upside down. And you'll see the plant comes out pretty easily. Now it doesn't have as many roots as I was hoping it would. You can kind of see some of them right there. That's not that many. So they were definitely getting a little constricted. So then what I will do is lay that down gently. Or the dirt ball can fall apart. So next I'm going to take my black container, or any container really, fill it up with some soil. Alright, and I'll fill it up almost to the top. So now I fill it with soil. You're going to poke a hole in the middle, kind of like that. So I'll set that down. As I come over here, I'm going to very gently separate the tomatoes. I'm going to try to grab one by the root mass. And there's a decent amount of roots on there. So with tomatoes, I'm not sure how well this will show. But tomatoes have little fuzzy bits on their stems. If you bury those deeply, they will actually grow new roots. So what you want to do is remove any leaves that are lower down. So I took the old seed leaves off. And I'm going to actually make this hole a little bit deeper. Very gently shove those roots in there and bury this almost as deep as I can. And then I'm going to firm that soil in around the plant. And I will water all of these in at the end when I'm done. So you just want to repeat this process. Oh, and before I forget, because I will forget, I'm going to create a label and stick that on there. So I have my duct tape label. So just take that off, and thankfully duct tape is very easy to rip apart, so I don't even need scissors. Take that and wipe some of the dirt off so it actually sticks, and just pop it on like that. So now that I know this is a large red cherry tomato. So what I'll do with this is just stick it in another one of my 1080 trays off to the side so that I can work on it, or work on the rest of the plants without that one getting in the way. I don't have to worry about messing it up or breaking it or getting dirt on it or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the ones in the cups, and then I will show you how I separate the ones that are the peat pellets, because that process is a little bit different. So here are the first of the cherry tomatoes that were in the red cups. Next, we're going to move on to these guys. So I was going to start with our super sweet 100 cherry tomatoes, but then I realized it would probably be easier to start with any of the tomatoes that only had one tomato pop up per peat pellet versus separating out two. So there's one over here, our beefsteak. I'm going to pull that a little bit closer and show you what I mean. So if I very gently come in here and ease out one of these peat pellets without disturbing the roots too much. So this is one of our beefsteak tomatoes, and you can see by looking at the peat pellet, only one popped up, which makes it very easy to transplant. What you'll do is just carefully peel off this netting. I prefer to peel it off. This one's more papery, so it probably will compost or deteriorate or decompose, however you want to put it. But I feel like it restricts the roots a little too much. So just very gently take this off. And similarly to the other tomatoes that I showed you, you're going to fill up your cup with soil. You leave this hole a little bit bigger to accommodate the whole root mass, and bury this as deep as you can. This is taller, so I don't think, I'll take this seed leaf off because it doesn't need it, but I don't need to remove any leaves other than that. So get this planted and labeled so I don't forget what it is, and then I'll show you how to actually separate the ones that have more than one, like its friend right next to it right here. So with this is also one of the beefsteaks. You could, since this tomato is a little bit thinner and a little smaller, just pinch this out and only have one tomato. I'm a masochist and I want all of the plants, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to plant that one, and then I'll show you exactly how you can separate these and keep both plants. Alrighty, so here is our beefsteak tomato with two stems. So just like with the one that only had one, you're going to want to go in there, especially for these since you're going to separate them. Very carefully peel off that netting. Now typically this next step is something you're going to want to do over an area that you're okay with getting dirty. I'm going to do it over the mulch just for making it so you can actually see what I'm doing, and it's a little easier to kind of get everything into frame. So this is where you'll need your hose. So what you're going to do is very gently and without getting water too much everywhere, wash the dirt from the roots, which is why you want to do it somewhere you're okay with getting dirty. You're going to massage the roots as you do it. Now this is something where having a helper was also handy, or not doing it in front of a camera. So you don't have to worry about getting anything wet. You're going to try to massage a lot of that dirt and soil away so that you can very, very gently start teasing those roots apart. There we go. You are going to lose some roots in the process, that's just par for the course, but now you still have 2 sizable root masses and 2 separate plants that you can put in 2 separate containers to grow on or give to friends or do whatever you'd like. And just like with the cherry tomatoes we planted earlier from the cups, you're going to label them, put them as deep as you can in the container so they can grow roots along that stem. I know I can't really focus on it because my hand is wet. Let's see if I can get it. This one's a little bit easier to see. You can kind of see those fine fuzzy hairs. There we go. So those will all turn into roots. I actually have quite a few that are working on that. So I'm going to plant up as many of these as I can because I'm losing a lot of daylight and I have to go pick Jay up from work soon. But I hope you enjoyed this video. We will definitely be posting more pictures on Instagram, and we're going to hopefully come to you soon with a garden tour once we get everything set up. I can show you what we have behind us right now, but other than the radish and carrots we planted in a previous video, this is the... Oh, we have 2 beds actually. So I'm going to show you really quickly what we have going on. So a very impromptu mini garden tour. So in the bed I was just sitting on, and you'll have to pardon the beeping noise from the anti-vermin things. We had really bad issues with rabbits and groundhogs. These help so much. But right here we have our kale. And I'm really proud of this plant because it's our biggest one that we grew from seed this year. Looks amazing. I cannot wait to eat kale. We have 3 rows of this. We did have a 4th row, but a storm kind of took this row out. We have another row right here. And it's doing very, very well. I'm very happy because these were super tiny. You'll remember from the other video when we separated these out, they were so tiny. They're doing so well right now. And then over here, we have some peas that we planted from seed, and they were not eaten by the birds. I'm happy. They are mostly all, if not all, sprouting. I think we have 100% germination on this one, which is really awesome. So we have 2 varieties here. I'll come around the front to show you. On the left side, I believe we have the sugar snap pea, and on the right we have the Oregon sugar pod peas. Now we have a few plants inside that we started from seed to transplant out, so we're going to work on hardening those off in the upcoming weeks. And we'll make sure to get these outside and put them at the front of the cage. And we have 1 more bed we can show you. And then the other bed we have planted, this is a brand new bed this year. It feels huge. We have 12 cabbage, I believe. I don't remember if we started these on video or not, but they were getting a little bit angry because we took so long to plant them. We had to actually build the bed and then get the soil in there, and it took a lot. But they're doing well, apart from a few yellowing leaves. They did not get transplant shock at all. I mean, look at this. It's growing so well. I believe this is the Copenhagen cabbage. I will definitely have to double check because I'm not sure. But it's doing well, and growing cabbage in the spring here is a little bit of a gamble because our spring is either short or non-existent. Sometimes we'll go from April into May, and it goes from decent spring weather, usually in the 60s to 70s, so very nice spring weather, straight into the 90s in May. And we had one summer, it was straight 90s every day from May until September, which is crazy. But it is a little bit of a gamble. We might get some cabbage. We do have shade cloth this year. We actually have it on that bed behind us. We're going to use that to help harden off a lot of our plants because we have a lot of plants. So bringing them in and out and in and out and in and out every day when we have multiple trays can be a little bit of an armful. I don't have as much help as I would like to do that. So I'm going to put them under the shade cloth. Most of the ones that are going to stay out here have already been outside for a few hours, and I start hardening them off through the afternoon versus the morning. So I'll start like around now when the sun's mostly down, and then I'll bring them out a few hours earlier the next day and a few hours earlier. Then to get them acclimated, I'll put them under the shade cloth to let them get used to being outside, get more wind, and filtered strong afternoon sun. But for now, that is all. I'm going to keep working on these tomatoes and get as many transplanted as I can. And I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.